Hey everybody, AJ the One here. How are y'all doing? And I'm doing fine myself. Right now, I'll be doing part 5 to what if Deku was a swordsman. Also, before we start, I would like to shout out Texting Titan Stories. I think that's what he's called. Man's been commenting on a few videos and subscribe. Thank you a lot. Shout out to you. And now, time to start off this story. Or start off this part. So, last time I left off, Izuku and all his friends would have went off to do their how I forget that fast. Their internships. And then right now, Izuku would have been notified some time ago about Ida and his problems that he's been having, especially with his brother. So Izuku would have came up to Ida and gave him an opportunity to come to his dad's internship, as Edshot often works out at Hosu, so they can get a free chance to go out and take down Stain. Ida would see this as a good idea, and also the fact that Izuku wants to help makes it even better. So Ida would agree. Ida would take on Edshot's internship, and Ida and Izuku would basically have a secret plan in a little while to try and go and fight Stain. Before they did, on the night of the attack, they would be out on patrol. When they're about to walk out the door so they can go out for patrol, Edshot would turn around and look at the two. He would simply just stare at them and tell them that he knows about their plan to go and fight Stain. He won't stop them, since he knows that there's probably no way to stop them. But he will say that they cannot. The best way to put it, that he says that if they were to find them, immediately notify the heroes. Don't fight him and then notify. Immediate notification. Izuku and Ida would nod, but neither of them will follow the rule, as they would go out and they would end up finding Stain in the middle about to kill Native. Or basically about to kill Native. Izuku and Ida would immediately rush in and attack at Stain. Stain would be completely caught off guard as he would jump back some. He would look at Ida and Izuku as he would be wondering who they are, as they're dressed like heroes. But one is dressed like a samurai, like a samurai. Izuku would say that they're both here to make him stop hurting heroes, or to basically that's sort of a kiddish way of saying it. They'll basically show up and say, "We're here to put a stop to you. You've harmed too many people, and now we need to put you down." Stain would sort of grin at this fact, or no, he would sort of get angry at this fact. It's just so you can take the credit for taking me down. Izuku would shake his head. No, just so you can stop. No, just so no more people like Ida's brother would be put in the hospital by a disgusting bastard like you. Izuku would say this with disdain and anger in his voice, as Stain would slightly smile at this, as he wouldn't say it out loud. But he would know that, he might say it out loud, that Izuku was a true hero, unlike everyone else. Or no, Izuku and Ida are true heroes, unlike everyone else. He would say this as he doesn't know Ida's true motive is just revenge. So Izuku and Ida would rush at Stain, and Stain would draw his blade, as Izuku's and Stain's blade would clash. Dang, that's an unnecessary pause. Izuku and Stain's blade would clash. As soon as this would happen, Izuku would push Stain's blade off of his, as Ida would, when running forwards towards Stain, leaping forwards and throwing a kick. Stain would have ended up backing up, dodging out of the way. But as soon as this would happen, Izuku would proceed to overwhelm Stain by running in and throwing out nothing but slashes. All Stain could do is basically fight defensively and use nothing but knives to try and hold off Ida while he was handling Izuku. After some time, Native would have ended up recovering, as he would have gotten up and ran away. Before he ran away, Izuku would tell him to go out and notify some heroes, but Native wouldn't listen to Izuku, as he would just run. Izuku sort of sit there, pause, as there's no way that he really just ran. He left two kids to just fight Stain. as 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 Stain would look at Izuku and Ida, see, look at that, a false hero. He let two high schoolers just fight me on my own, fight me on their own. The pure definition of a fake hero. So a hero that only does it for fame and glory, but doesn't even deserve the bare minimum of it. Izuku wouldn't reply to Stain as he and Ida would continue to just constantly fight off Stain. After some time of fighting, Izuku realized that it was going to be a lot harder for them to beat Stain. So Izuku would have ended up kicking Stain back and would have kicked Stain back and would have asked Izuku, and Izuku would have asked Stain, what gives him the right to tell people, or no, he would ask him, how can he tell if a hero is fake or real? Izuku would say this just to get Stain talking, as from his pocket would have put out his phone, put it behind his back, and start typing Todoroki his address. Stain would have simply said that all heroes are fake except for All Might, so he could just tell them out just by looking at them. But those two are different. Ida, hearing this, would get pissed off as he would yell out loud that his brother was a true hero and he did nothing wrong, and all he did was save people, and yet he's in the hospital right now, might not be able to ever be a hero again because of what is it? Because of your idiotic and insane fantasies. Izuku wouldn't really want to piss off the guy that's trying to kill them too much, but it's keeping Stain talking, so Izuku would allow it. When Ida would say this, Stain would get pissed off severely as he would say that your brother was a fake hero, and just like everyone else, he did it for fame and glory. Ida, hearing this, he would have used reciprocal burst and launched forward faster than Stain could realize, and Ida would kick Stain across the face. Izuku already sending Todoroki the location. Izuku would have just rushed forward alongside Ida. After some time, the two would have just continued their combination of just Izuku mainly fighting Ida Izuku mainly fighting Ida and Stain, and Ida coming. Izuku mainly fighting Stain, as Ida would come in from the side sometimes to help out Izuku and get in quick sneaking attacks. But after some time, Stain would have ended up drawing blood on his blade from Izuku, and would have ended up licking his blade and would have kicked Izuku over to the side. And then after that, he would have started fighting Ida by himself, and which we all know how that would go. So Stain would have did the same thing that he did to Ida in the original. He would mix him up, stab him, jump on top of him, jump on top of him, and land on top of him with both feet implanted. Would lick his blood, pick up his blade, and be ready to stab it into Ida. But Stain would hear fire crack and pop as the area would illuminate around them. As Stain would look up, as he would get smacked by a wall of fire. It would be Todoroki. Now in this timeline, it would just be the same thing as usual. Izuku not having the same strength as he did in the original canon, but still enough skill and strength and speed to match up with his canon counterpart. It would just be almost like the same. They would just be jumping Stain. They would end up getting Stain in the air. Izuku and Ida would have ended up actually not no. I feel like a plan would be that Izuku would have to disarm Stain, and then after that, then they would get him in the air, and then then Ida would kick him. So yeah, that would be the plan. Izuku would run forward and do a basic parry move, and then disarm Stain, kick him in the stomach. He would knee him in the stomach, and then palm thrust his chest forward. And as soon as this would happen, Stain would stumble back some, as Todoroki would launch an ice wall at him. Stain would simply just jump in the air since he had nowhere else to go, and this is when Ida would run towards a wall. He would run towards the opposite wall where Stain is, and would have jumped up into the air, facing forward to Stain as he would do a dive kick, as he would kick Stain right in his chest, smacking him into the wall. Soon as this would soon as this would happen, Stain would have fell to Ida and Stain would have fell to the ground. Ida with a soft landing, and Stain with a thud. They would have thought that they had just easily beaten Stain, but oddly enough, Stain would have gotten up. Stain would have gotten up and would have drawn his knives to begin and ready to fight again. Izuku, seeing this, he would just get ready to take out Stain by slashing him across his chest, only to knock him out but not kill him. As soon as Izuku would do this, a giant blade would bust through the wall that Stain was leaning on. Basically, Stain would have stand up. He would be right next to the wall. Izuku would run forward, swing at Stain to knock him out, but a long and thick katana would basically just break through the wall, blocking Izuku's attack. As soon as this would happen, the blade would move to knock Izuku's blade off of the giant one, as Izuku would have ended up jumping back. Now, who would walk out would basically be a very tall and broad man, around 7 feet tall, bulging muscles, a black tank top, a very black and baggy sweatpants, and very dark red boots. On his blade would just be, like I said, a simple long and thicker katana, almost like a great sword like katana. Often in Japanese mythology, if anybody reads that. He would also had long black hair that would only reach down to his shoulders. But on his face would be a nose piercing between his nostrils, and 2 lip piercings, one for each side of his bottom lip. He would have smiled and looked behind him and no, he's not going to be 7 feet tall. He's going to be around like the same, I would say 6, just around the same height as Stain. He would look back at Stain as he would say, "You're struggling against some kids? That's funny." Izuku would see this as all of them would see this as they will all see now that they have a new contender to fight with. As soon as this would happen, Izuku would look back at Ida and tell him to contact his dad. The contact is dead. The black-haired man would look forward as he would see Izuku. Stain would tell him just to kill them and move on, as they need to go. Jinzo, oh yeah, that's his name, Jinzo. As Stain would say, Jinzo, just hurry up and kill them. They need to hurry up and leave since the heroes are called. Jinzo would pick up his giant blade and put it on his shoulder, and with one hand on his hip and say, yeah, he got it. As he would be walking forward and look down at Izuku, and look at Izuku dead in his eyes. So little man, you ready? Izuku would get in his stance as he would hold his blade forward with determination in his eyes. Jinzo would grin at this Jinzo would grin at this as he would end up grabbing his hand with 2 hands, with his blade still on his shoulder, as he would say, "Good." As him and Izuku would rush towards each other, Jinzo would use his weight of the blade to swing it forward and get down the most maximum strength. But because of this, it would be slow and predictable, so Izuku would dodge out of the way, moving forward, slashing at Jinzo. Jinzo would have only narrowly dodged, just getting a decent sized cut on his shoulder. As soon as this would happen, he would pick up his blade again and then swing it at Izuku, causing Izuku to dodge. But before Izuku could even get a chance to get a counterattack on Jinzo, Jinzo would have ended up moving his blade again to slash once again at Izuku. My bad. And after this, Izuku would have did like a handspring backflip to get away from Jinzo. But as soon as he did, Jinzo would have did a 3 slash from high left to low right, and then from low right to high left. And after that, he would bring his blade to the top of his head and swing downwards. Izuku would have ended up nearly dodging the two first swings, the two first side to side swings before the final. I mean no, but before the final overhead slash, Izuku would have put up his blade to block it. As soon as this would happen, the two blades would clash against each other as Izuku would go skidding back, as his back would have ended up meeting the ground, as Izuku's back would have ended up meeting the ground. Izuku would have slowly started to get up. Izuku would have slowly started to get up as Ida would tell Izuku that the heroes have been called. Jinzo and Stain would be walking over to the group of kids, as Jinzo would tell Stain to also get his blade back, to get his sword back. Stain would tell Jinzo, well, that was his plan. All right, Jinzo would nod his head and say, all right then, as the two would rush forward. Jinzo immediately going for Izuku, but Stain going over for his blade that was near Todoroki and Ida. Ida would rush forward and throw a kick at Jinzo, but Jinzo would have been, not at Jinzo, at Stain. As Stain would have ended up ducking under Ida's kick and throw a knife behind him. Ida basically seeing this coming, he would have moved his hand behind him and caught the blade by its handle. And while still moving, he would have run towards Todoroki to where his blade was right behind. Todoroki would throw a wave of ice at Stain, but Stain would have ended up jumping out of the way into the air, and then would have jumped towards a wall. He would kick off the wall and jump behind Todoroki and would have grabbed his blade. As he would swing it around, as he would lick it. He would lick it. The blood on it would be Ida's, as Ida would freeze for a few seconds and sit down. Actually, no, Ida hasn't gotten cut yet, so never mind. Stain would just pick up his blade and look at Ida and Todoroki, well, with a deadly glare, as he would have gotten into his position to fight. Cutting back over to Izuku and Jinzo, the two would clash blades as Izuku would spin around. The two would clash blades as Jinzo would have pushed Izuku back. Izuku, realizing that Jinzo not only has more physical strength than him, but he's just faster. So what he needs to do is just keep dodging and only get an opening. So for the duration of around a few minutes, Izuku would have just been dodging all of Jinzo's attacks, and the only few times he would have gotten light cuts on Jinzo. When Jinzo would hold his giant sword with two hands and bend his elbows to thrust the blade forward. Izuku thrust the blade forward 4 times. Izuku would have dodged it. Izuku would have dodged all four of his attacks. But as soon as Izuku would rush over to the side of Jinzo to try and swing at him, Jinzo would have sort of, almost like he would have thrust his blade forward, and then he would have bent his elbows. Not his elbows. He would have bent his wrist to sort of point to where Izuku was, and after that, bend his elbows backwards to thrust the blade towards Izuku. Izuku would have used this blade to block the giant sword of Jinzo, block the giant blade of Jinzo, as Izuku would have ended up backing up. Izuku and Jinzo would rush forward as their blades would clash again. As their blades would stay connected, as Izuku would try to overpower Jinzo. As this wouldn't work, so Izuku would have pushed Jinzo's blade off of his as he would have jumped back. Izuku would rush forward as Jinzo would throw a slash out from high right to low left. Izuku would have ended up jumping in the air, dodging the attack as he would have ended up jumping behind Jinzo, throwing a slash down. Jinzo would have ended up dodging the attack. As he would quickly turn around, grab the blade with one hand and letting go with the other and swing him behind him. Izuku would have ended up Izuku would have ended up only narrowly blocking the attack, but as he would be sent further down the alley, further away from Ida and Todoroki. While this was happening, Jinzo would have rushed forward. He would have ended up sort of basically putting his blade in the ground and as he would rush forward, cutting and breaking the ground, as he would have used the earth and dirt to sort of use as almost like a smoke screen to slash at Izuku. Izuku didn't know what to do, so he just put up his blade in defenses. As Jinzo was saying that he would think that if Izuku did this, his blade was just gonna break. When Jinzo's and Izuku's blade made contact, Jinzo would have angled his blade so when his blade and Izuku's blade collided together, he would have been able to use his momentum to send Izuku into one of the walls of the alley on the right side. Jinzo would perform this, and as he thought, Izuku would have blocked his blade. Would have blocked Jinzo's blade, but to Jinzo's shock, the blade would be fully intact. Jinzo not really caring that it's still intact, as he would just think that it's a really good blade. So he would rush over to where Izuku was and then would slice the blade downwards slice the blade downwards to where Izuku was. Izuku would just simply move out of the way of the blade as he would rush forward and slice Jinzo across sort of like near the bottom of his abdomen. Jinzo was backed up in shock as Izuku almost killed him there. But as literally if he was any slower, Izuku would have killed him as Jinzo would have nearly dodged that attack. But even still, it would be a deep cut. Jinzo would have smirked at Izuku and say, "Okay, I'll take you a little bit more seriously." Jinzo would say this as his body, as it would seem like his muscles would begin to would grow bigger and also grow tighter, more and more by the second, until the 6-foot male would have grown around 6'8". He's now extremely tall and muscular. Izuku would have been confused, but would have ended up ignoring it as he would have rushed forward to Jinzo. Jinzo would swipe his blade down as Izuku and his blades, and as Izuku would have ended up dodging one of Jinzo's attacks, but only narrowly, as Izuku's some of his hair follicles would end up getting cut by the blade. As soon as this would happen, Izuku realized that he's faster than he realized. So Izuku, instead of him going for a counterattack, he would have landed on his feet and jumped back. Jinzo would have looked over at Izuku. "Oh, where you going? The fun's just starting." Jinzo would say this as he would raise his blade in the air again, or rushing forward to do the same attack. As soon as he did this, Izuku realized that he had to just kill Jinzo, no questions about it. So as soon as it would happen, Izuku would have dodged Jinzo's blade, jumped up into the air, and would have ended up jumping on Jinzo's back. He would have ended up landing on Jinzo's back or almost basically his shoulders. As soon as he did, he would use one hand to grab Jinzo's forehead for support as he would have lifted up his blade in the air, used reverse grip. Basically, the blade is now flipped upside down, and would have ended up stabbing Jinzo right in the neck, attempting to kill, or basically he would stab Izuku in that little free space where your collarbone and neck is. That's a little soft spot which would lead basically right to your heart. As soon as Izuku did this, he would realize that the blade didn't even go all the way through. As soon as Izuku would try to pull out the blade, it would. Actually, no, as soon as Izuku would try to pull out the blade, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work, as Jinzo would have grabbed Izuku by his hair and slammed him into the ground. As soon as this happened, Jinzo would lift up his foot to stomp on Izuku's head, but Izuku would roll out of the way and would spring back up to his feet. Jinzo would sort of roll his neck. So you're trying to go for the kill, I see. Well, that's not going to work on me. Actually, do I want to retcon that? Yeah, I want to retcon that. Oh, yeah, never mind. Yeah, definitely retconning that. Going back to when he just got bigger. My bad. I might as well just stop the recording, but don't feel like it. So I'm just gonna retcon all that. When he would get bigger and he would swipe down Izuku again with dashing at him when Izuku just jumped back. So he sliced down at Izuku dodged and realized his strength, so he jumped back. Jinzo would run forward again, doing a downward slash. Izuku would realize that he needed to kill him now. So what Izuku did, he would have dodged out of the way. He would have dodged out of the way of the blade. So Jinzo would have did a low right to high left slash. But as soon as he did, Izuku would use all his strength to parry the attack. As soon as he did, his blade would have went up into the air. Well, no, his hand and his blade would have went up right into the air, leaving it wide open. Izuku would almost sort of flip his arms and he would bend his elbows and thrust forward, trying to pierce the man right in the heart. As soon as Izuku did this, his blade would stop only maybe like a few inches with the tip in. Pause. Izuku would realize that he really did any damage. As soon as he tried to pull the blade out, it would slightly be stuck. Izuku would be confused on what was going on. So when Jinzo sliced out his head again, he would have ended up letting go of his blade as he would jump back. Jinzo would have grabbed the blade and pulled that out of himself and would have slammed it and would have basically held it out as he would lift up his great sword as he would slam it into the blade. He would be shocked as the blade didn't break. He would do it again and again and again as the blade wouldn't break. He would simply just smirk as he would throw the blade at Izuku as Izuku would catch it. And after this point, Jinzo would just be basically inspecting Izuku, basically just staring at him up and down. While this is happening, Izuku in his head is just panicking, as from how it looks, it's taken the heroes a really long time to get here, and right now, this guy's speed and strength is completely immeasurable to his own. After this point, he might end up dying if the heroes don't come quickly. Jinzo would get a smirk. He would have gotten a smirk. He would point with one hand while putting his blade on his shoulder. Aren't you that kid from UA? Izuku Kamihara, right? Izuku would sort of pause at this as he would nod. Izuku Kamihara. Let's see. The first name Izuku, green hair, and a unbreakable blade. Yuki told me a lot about you. Izuku would pause, hearing the fact that Yuki knows that, or the fact that Yuki is even brought up again. Izuku would sort of pause as he would glare at the man. You didn't like that, did you? Yeah, I know, Yuki, and what of it? Izuku wouldn't say a word as Izuku would have ended up rushing forward again. At this point, Jinzo would have simply just Jinzo would have basically rushed forward as well as he would have ended up reeling back his fist. No, he would have ended up, oh crap, what am I doing? He would have ended up sort of lifting his blade in the air as Izuku rushed forward, him standing at a complete standstill as he would have brung his blade down. And Izuku would have brung up his blade to also attack as well. He would move over to the Izuku and to the Ida and Todoroki and Stain fight. Or the other fight that's going on this side of the alley. At this point, Ida and Todoroki are completely overwhelming Stain with the same strategy as before with him and Izuku, with Ida and Izuku, but now it's Todoroki, so he's getting completely overwhelmed, not knowing what to do. So his first plan, Stain while fighting would just be cutting through that ice and we'd just be jumping around. And the only time he would ever land a strike on one of them is when he would end up cutting Todoroki's cheek. He would try to lick his blood, but his fire would have gotten in the way as he would have jumped back. And as soon as he did, with Ida's reciprocal burst, he would have gotten kicked by Stain. Actually, no, not with the reciprocal burst. He would have just, Izuku would have just ran it, not Izuku, Ida would have ran at Stain and kicked him. Stain at this point would be desperate. So at this point, he would have rushed forward at Ida. Todoroki sort of expecting this. He would have launched a wave of fire at Stain. Stain would have just jumped over the wave of fire and would have landed in front of Ida. He would swipe back. He would slice at Ida as Ida would jump back. As soon as this would happen, Stain would quickly sheath his sword and begin grabbing knives and constantly throwing them at Ida. Not even worrying about killing Ida or stabbing him, just trying to get him back. Ida not really knowing any chance, he would have just kept jumping back and back and back, dodging the knives and only getting hit by two. One in his abdomen area and one in his shoulder. Ida would have been sent around 30 feet back as Todoroki would have ended up, as Stain would have looked over at Todoroki and would have jumped forward to try and slice at him. Todoroki would have put up an ice wall. Would have put up an ice wall as Stain would just simply cut through it. He would jump forward and would have jumped forward and would have threw up his blade in the air. Todoroki would be Stain would look up. Basically, he would do the tactic that he did in the anime, which was so fucking cool. He threw his blade up in the air. He would have looked up, and so would Todoroki. When this would happen, Stain would rush forward, and instead of licking on his blood, he would have kneed Todoroki in the stomach with his. I don't think his knee pads were spiked. He would have ended up kicking Todoroki and kneeing Todoroki in the stomach. Todoroki would have felt all his air leave his body, as he would have ended up slamming into the wall of the alley. Stain would have grabbed out a few knives and threw them at Todoroki. Todoroki would have dodged out of the way and would throw out some blast of fire to push back Stain. Stain not caring at this point as he would have put up his hand and run through the flames, getting right in front of Todoroki. He would have also ended up catching his blade again. Soon as Todoroki moved out of the way, he would grab his blade, put up his arm, rush through the flames as he would rush forward, slashing at Todoroki. Todoroki would have ended up blocking his ice. Todoroki would end up blocking his attack with ice. And instead of this would happen, he would use a ridiculous amount of heat to basically shoot a blast of fire through the ice block, hitting Stain right in the stomach. Stain would jump back some. Stain would have fell back some as he would have gotten up. As Todoroki would have launched a bigger wall of ice, causing Stain to back up even further. Ida would have ended up pulling out both of the knives from his body, as he would tell Todoroki to keep Stain in one spot. As he is ready to end this. As soon as this would happen, Stain would have ended up jumping through all of Todoroki's sort of gaps in his ice as he would have rushed forward to Todoroki. Todoroki would have ended up shooting fire at the ground to create almost like a firewall, as he would rush over to the side of Stain. As he would rush over to the side of Stain and do the same thing. And after that, he would move to the final side of Stain, which is open, as he would do it again. Now Stain is basically just completely trapped within a wall of fire. Todoroki would have used this chance to use ice to get into the air and shoot, and use the ice to get into the air above Stain, as he would have ended up touching the wall and would have shot a plethora of ice beams down at not ice beams, like it would have touched the wall, sent a trail of ice, sent it over Stain, and would have shot like a pillar of ice at Stain. Stain realizing that this is bad, as he would have ended up jumping up. As he would end up saying screw it, as he would have jumped forward, crossing his arms like an X and ended up busting out of the flames. Stain would have ended up rolling, seeing Todoroki as he would throw a couple of knives. Ida, being very far away from Stain, just ready for Todoroki to put him in the right spot. Todoroki would have ended up using the ice to sort of basically like skate across the wall almost, or similar to what Endeavor did by melting the wall to make it a little bit more sticky for him. Todoroki would have ended up basically just freezing the wall. He would basically freeze it, jump forward. Actually, no, he would basically be like, he would put one foot and one hand on the same side of the wall and would have ended up pushing himself forward. And when he did, he would constantly touch the wall to constantly move himself with ice. So he rushed forward with ice coming. So he would rush forwards to Stain as he went up, jumping off the wall and shooting a blast of flames from over top of Stain. Stain would, of course, end up dodging out of the way. Todoroki would use his fire side to sort of melt the pads, sort of melt the wall, is to make himself lose some height on the fall or lose some speed. He would land down on the ground and shoot almost like a thick ice wall at Stain, but it would be short range. Actually, no. Stain would have tried to slice at Todoroki, but Todoroki would end up shooting up an ice wall, stopping Stain's blade. If Stain's blade would have gotten stuck. As soon as this would happen, Ida would use his reciprocal burst and rush forward. When he did, Ida would sort of spin like a ballerina, spinning like a top, as he would have come from the side of Todoroki's wall. Stain wouldn't have known it all, as he would see Ida as Ida's entire metallic foot would slap into Stain's face so hard that Stain's entire side of his face would have been fractured, like his skull, like his cheekbones, his teeth, his jaw fractured. As Stain's entire body would slam into the wall, as Stain would be cratered inside of it. Stain would have ended up slumping over, smacking into the ground as he would be knocked out. Ida and Todoroki would look over at Jinzo's and Izuku fighting. The two would have ended up continuing the fight after when we cut off from them. After this point, Izuku was just clashing lightly with Jinzo's blade, basically with a serious look on his face. Basically, how Izuku is clashing with Jinzo, quote unquote, is basically that whenever they both swing, Izuku sort of, as soon as their blade makes contact, Izuku quickly pulls away, but not backing up. So as soon as their blades would make contact, Izuku would move his faster off of Jinzo's blade. So it would sort of like look like they're clashing, or better yet, when Jinzo would throw an attack, Izuku would move off of it as though forward, as it would say, as leaving Jinzo open. This entire thing would continue forward, would continue as they would be clashing again and again. But as soon as Jinzo tried to slice at Izuku, Izuku would end up doing a back spring forward. Actually, no, would have ended up doing a back spring, basically just jumping backward, using a hand to spring off the ground and land with your feet. When Jinzo did this, he would have left himself wide open for Izuku to rush forward and slice Jinzo across the chest. Jinzo would end up screaming out of pain, yelling that hurt, as he would turn around and try to slice at Izuku. Izuku would basically end up pulling the same trick that he did on Stain. He would go past Jinzo, but slicing him across the chest. He would end up jumping over top of Jinzo in the air, as Jinzo would have swiped backwards, but Izuku would be there, as Izuku would have ended up slicing across Jinzo's shoulder. When Izuku did this, he would sort of do it in the type of way where he almost like flipped off of Jinzo when he sliced into his blade. So Izuku would sort of did like a sideways spin when this would happen. Jinzo would look back and see that Stain that is knocked out, and Izuku and Ida and Todoroki are now basically about to be right there, or on their way. Jinzo getting desperate, he would turn and swing at Izuku. Izuku would sort of jump and land on top of Jinzo's blade as it would be a sideways slice. But as soon as this would happen, Izuku would sort of kick backwards or flip backwards, and would have ended up landing on top of a dumpster. As soon as this would happen, Jinzo would have ended up grabbing the dumpster. Actually, no. Jinzo would have ended up slicing at Izuku, as Izuku would have ended up... Actually, no. Jinzo would slice at him in a type of way where Izuku would, like, get off of the dumpster. Basically, in the direction that Jinzo exactly wanted him to be. Jinzo would grab the dumpster and smack it into Izuku and pushing it forward, so Izuku would have ended up rolling down the alley with the dumpster. As soon as this would happen, Jinzo would turn around at Todoroki and Ida. He would rush forward at the two as he would slice at them. Todoroki would only be fast enough to only barely dodge as The both of them would have ended up dodging, but only narrowly, as both of them would have sustained some form of clothing damage. They would both roll out the way, but Ida would let Todoroki would roll basically like it was some form of a Souls game. He would roll out of the way and land in sort of like a Spider-Man like position, ready to fight. But Ida would have ended up landing on his feet when he dodged and would have rushed forward towards Jinzo, throwing out a kick. Jinzo still pissed off. He would have eaten that kick completely as he would grab Ida by his leg and slam him into the ground. Izuku would have ended up planting his feet to the ground, stopping the dumpster as he would push past it and rush forwards. As soon as this would happen, when Izuku saw that Ida was about to get harmed, he would tell Todoroki to get Jinzo off of Izuku. Todoroki would do so as he would plant his hand in the ground, and he would basically create like a concentrated ice pillar that would smack into Jinzo, or ice cylinder. It would smack into Jinzo, launching Jinzo off of Ida, but not causing any pain to him. He would plant his feet in the ground, skidding across it as he would basically be in Izuku's line of sight. As soon as this would happen, Izuku would have jumped forward as he would have put his blade into his katana. Put his katana into its sheath. As soon as he jumped forward, or how he jumped forward, he would begin spinning in mid-air sideways. As soon as this would happen, he would unsheath his blade, spinning at a very high speed. Jinzo would have put up his blade to block Izuku, but even still, Izuku would have ended up knocking Jinzo back to the ground. As soon as this would happen, Todoroki would try to freeze over Jinzo by his arm, but Jinzo would have ended up using his massive muscular arm to break out of the ice. He would quickly get up and look more pissed off than ever before. As his muscles would begin to grow larger, it's almost not even larger, but they would look more dense than before. As Todoroki, Ida, and Izuku would all look confused. Jinzo would smile at them. Oh, well, before I die. Well, not before I die. Before you die, maybe I should tell you my quirk. My quirk is called muscle density. He can densify, or I don't know if densify is a word. He can make his muscles more dense and larger by basically just focusing up. So when this would happen, his muscles would get strong as steel. So after this point, they would all look scared as now they would all quickly gotten together when he was talking to them. Izuku would have rushed over next to Ida and Todoroki, basically getting in some form of a formation when he would explain everything to them about his quirk. As soon as this would happen, he would rush forward and swat and slice at them from basically a sideways slice. They would all be almost in awe at how fast he is, as the only person that couldn't really dodge was Todoroki, but Izuku would have ended up jumping backwards, smacking his back into Todoroki and using his blade to basically block Jinzo's attack. Izuku would have almost ended up like rolling off of Todoroki, you could say, as Todoroki would have fell back, and from the force of Jinzo's attack, Izuku's back would have sort of pushed off of Todoroki as he would slam into a dumpster. Izuku. Todoroki would be on that ground as it would be completely alright. For the most part, at least. He would quickly get up and use his reciprocal burst to jump forward at Jinzo, throwing out another kick. But this time not at Jinzo's face. I say but this time not at Jinzo's face. Ida would throw a kick at Jinzo's sort of knee area. He would throw it to the side of his knee as he would kick Jinzo's knees in. As Jinzo would yell in pain as he would grab Ida by his neck and throw him into a wall. Ida would smash into the wall hard as possible. Would smash into the wall extremely hard. As Todoroki would shoot a fire blast at Jinzo. Jinzo would lift his blade into the air and swipe down with so much force that the flames are almost split by his attack. Or no, it is. As the flames sort of split and curve into themselves as it would stop going any further forward. Todoroki would look out in shock on what was going on. As soon as this would happen, Jinzo would rush forward, Jinzo would rush forward and begin to kill Todoroki in one slice. But as soon as this would happen, a large wind blast would come out of nowhere and smack right into Jinzo, launching him further down the alley. As soon as this would happen, Jinzo would have basically ended up getting caved in, or no, he would just got sent down the alley, basically skidding across the ground. As soon as this would happen, Inasa would have showed up alongside Best Genius. It would also be Edgeshot, Bakugo, as Inasa, Bakugo, and Best Genius were there, on top of Edgeshot. And then after that, it would have Gran Torino, also with Kendo alongside him, because Kendo did get 1-for-0, and Endeavor. Those are all the people that are there, so like 6 people. They will all basically be confused as they would see Ida caved into a wall, bleeding out. Izuku smashed into the side of a dumpster, and Todoroki looking on confused. Actually, no. Another retcon. It's just Inasa that showed up. So Inasa would see all of this and would look confused. As he would ask him what's going on. As like I said before, anyone that did not hear me, the heroes and other people are not there at this time. I want to retcon that. I'm changing that. Nah. So Inasa would look confused on what was going on as he would tell them that, well, right now they're fighting some guy that was working with Stain. Inasa would look around and also see Stain knocked out, flat out on the ground, as he would say, okay, he's going to help him out. Izuku would be, up and running, but he would just be sitting, he would just be tired. So what he would do, he would slowly get up from being caved inside of a dumpster, as Inasa would have walked over and helped Ida out of the wall. Ida would be remotely okay, but now they will all look over and see whatchamacallit ready to fight, or Jinzo ready to fight. Izuku and Ida would be the ones to run forward and begin fighting Jinzo, while Inasa and Todoroki were to just sit back and try to zone him out. But this entire excursion, Izuku would have ended up jumping forward, and would have jumped behind Jinzo, he would have ran forward, only narrowly ducking Jinzo's attack, as Izuku would have ended up running under his legs. When he would do this, he would cut the back, or basically behind Jinzo's knee, as Izuku realized that it didn't even do that much damage. Jinzo would feel it as he would turn around and try to swipe down at Izuku. But before Jinzo could, Ida at last second would use his strongest reciprocal burst that he could come up with and smack it right into Jinzo's nose. Jinzo would become teary-eyed as he would back up. As soon as this happened, Inasa would have ended up shooting off a whirlwind, which would have ended up launching Jinzo into a wall. As soon as they did this, Todoroki would have also ended up shooting fire at Jinzo. So while Jinzo was getting burned up, he would end up using his sword to sort of swipe in such a manner where all the flames would get pushed back. When this would happen, Jinzo would break himself out of the wall as he would rush forward towards Todoroki, seeing that fire is going to be his biggest problem. Todoroki would shoot off a giant ice wall towards Jinzo before he could even make it near him, causing Jinzo to get trapped inside of it. Or quote-unquote trapped. Basically, he just got smacked by a giant ice wall. So he would get smacked back inside of a wall, but at a higher place, as he would break himself out of the wall again and land down. When this would happen, Inasa would have ended up shooting a wind blast at Jinzo, also smacking him again into the wall. As Jinzo would realize that there's no way for him to get out of this, as right now he's just completely pinned into the wall. So he would try to, but he didn't really want to accept it. So seeing that he's getting overpowered by a group of kids, he would rush forward. As soon as this would happen, Inasa and Todoroki would both be shooting off attacks at Jinzo. I know in the original Inasa and Todoroki's moves didn't really work well because, fire rises up with wind, or fire makes wind rise, something like that. So your attacks were just avoiding getting Orca. But in this time, Inasa would have been smart and shoot off whirlwinds, like literal miniature tornadoes shooting off forward, and Todoroki would shoot his flame forward to basically cause like sort of a swirling, flying tornado thing. It would smack into Jinzo as he would get severely pissed off that he's now getting pinned by some kids as his muscles would become larger and more dense. As